Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 364 for the week of August 7th, 2018. My name is Ryan Higgins, who is here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
Golden legendary. Bryce.
Oh. Toby.
Lane.
And Kevin.
And Charlotte. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Now, this is not a very traditional episode. If for some reason this is your first episode, I recommend not listening to this episode and finding a different episode to listen to, because it'll be...
This is their last chance, though.
Just get back to us next
for
week.
a lot of goodness.
Come back to us later and listen to this episode, because this episode will be totally meaningless to most people if this is your first episode.
Interesting. Not sure that I agree with that.
we had a somewhat quiet week. There was a handful of things that I wanted to talk about, but at this point, we've got to open up in like an hour and 45 minutes for our midnight release of Fantastic Four #1. We've all got stuff to do. We're going to hold off on a majority of our topics for next week. Lots of good stuff to talk about. Batwoman casting and Stan Lee's signing and a bunch of stuff. Next week. We'll get to all this stuff next week. Because this week, we have to say goodbye to our more regular guest over the course of the last co-host over the last six months or so. That's Bryce Larsen, down the far end of the table. Now, if you listen to last week's episode, we talked about this where Bryce is moving out of the area. So for anyone wondering, we've been talking about, again, getting you on the Patreon feed, and you're going to have some content on there once you get settled in. And, when you show back up down this way, you're going to be down here a couple times a year.
Yep.
I'd love to have you back on. So for those that are like... The podcast will never be the same. No, Bryce will still be around.
You're right.
So
Is what
don't
he
worry.
was. Wait, what? No, that's not the message we're sending.
Well, I opened up the audience. I opened up questions to the audience. We got some comments. We got some questions. We got some feedback. Bryce, this episode's for you. I send me your favorite Bryce questions.
Anything about me, I'm a fan of.
I asked,
as I'm sure is a big
ask
secret.
us questions about the X-Men, your favorite IPA. Premier League.
That's easy. That's also easy.
So we got lots of questions aimed at you. So if I'm gonna read these to you, and of course everyone can jump in with any witty comment they have.
I would just like to say before you jump into comics, that it's just been an honor and a pleasure being with you, ugly bastards, for so many. Years.
Yeah.
So anyway, I will certainly miss it. I will not be gone as much as I'm sure some of the haters would like, but I will also not be on as much as the sensible half of the audience. The sensible 90% of the audience.
What is Bryce Larsen quotes going to do?
He's not going to become Brock quotes, I'll tell you that.
I know.
That is a certainty.
I don't need that.
So anyway, I just wanted to reiterate, as I am wont to do, and especially once I open a beer, I want to reiterate my appreciation for everybody's support and listening, and I will really miss it.
Yeah, well, we've had a few people come and go on the podcast, and especially in the store, we've had a not insignificant amount of customers over the last couple of years that are moving out of the area. The Bay is incredibly expensive, especially if you have a family. So I'm curious what the next couple of years is going to look like here. I'm hopeful it stays good, but you never know, right? I think we all understand that family and kids and money are super, super important, and being near your local comic shop is cool, but real life takes precedence.
Not right at the top.
Yeah, sure.
I have the first appearance of Bryce.
Oh, thank God.
What episode was it? Like one something?
No, episode 77 was the first.
Was that early? Yeah.
First appearance of Bryce.
I would not have guessed it was that early.
Yeah, you weren't on regularly until much later.
That's true.
So, we got a bunch of questions here. Let's hit up some of those. I'll get some from the Facebook group here. From Victor, he says, Bryce, you will be missed. No question. He said you'll be missed.
Victor, no question?
Oh, no, sorry. Here's a second post with questions.
Victor, a little anticlimactic there.
No, the second question is, who do you consider the best X-Men leader of all time? And again, of course, this is also open up to the group. So
Okay, so that is obviously Cable during...
He led X-Force, so it's
during the no. He was
true.
the X-Men leader during the Humberto Ramos drew it, and when it was like Sabretooth and Mystique were on the X-Men, and you're like, what even is this? Okay. As much as I'm sure that there's, I probably could have looked at these questions earlier and had better answers, but as much as I think that Cyclops is the most fucking nerd, boring leader of the X-Men, he's done a pretty good job leading them with a steady hand. He's kind of like Arsene Wenger. So for those of you that don't know, Arsene Wenger, manager at Arsenal Football Club for fucking decades with an S, and led them to greatness, and then led them to, sort of always great, so it's kind of boring, which, if it sounds like the X-Men, they've always been great. And then at the end, they were like, not, achieving first place ever, and so the fans sort of turned on him, and they're like, ugh, this guy has got to go, which is not dissimilar to what happened with Cyclops. So, Cyclops, I wish you had a jacket like Arsene Wenger. He has these ridiculous ponchos that he's like 6 feet tall, and they go like down to his ankles. Anyway, so I would say that he's probably one of the best actual X-Men. Another answer would be obviously Professor X. These are all very cliched answers.
Except for those early days, he doesn't really lead for the X-Men.
What, Professor X? Oh, yeah. That's why I sort of add that on as a cherry on top.
Like early.
Because, we're talking double digits X-Men, not even single, or not even triple digits. So, super early on. But he's certainly an iconic leader of the X-Men.
Sure.
But best, I don't know. I might have to come up with another one. But like,
they kind of will rotate out leaders in like the.
I tell you, it's not Kitty Pryde.
Post issue 300 and now
it's maybe Storm. Storm was a really good leader, so maybe it's Storm. But Cyclops was just such a mainstay for just so long. This annoys me with Justice League too. With any team book, when they make any character that just has been around forever but hasn't had a turn to be a leader, when they make them the leader, like when they did with Vixen in the Justice League, when they do it with Rogue with the X-Men, I'm kind of like, okay, but you're not really a leader, you just haven't had a turn yet. That's, whatever. So anyway, best leader, as much as I don't like Cyclops in my tier list of X-Men, I'd say he's one of the best, if not the best leaders.
Anyone else want to jump in? What was that?
He's tapping.
It's tapping.
I'm doing Morse code to Kevin to tell him to say that Maggot is the best leader of the X-Men.
Victor also asked, will Manchester City repeat and be the Premier League champs?
Man, I'm looking at this through rose-colored glasses, but I really am hoping that Liverpool, so I'm a Liverpool supporter, I really hope that Liverpool win the whole thing. I think that they are stronger than last year, and last year I would say they were the second best team in the league. Now, they took their foot off the gas because of their crazy Champions League run, and so they ended up getting fourth. But I would argue that they dropped points that they wouldn't have otherwise if they weren't distracted by the Champions League run that they had, while Tottenham and Manchester United were both knocked out of the Champions League. And so I would say that they were the second best team last year, although I would take third best team last year. This year, I don't know. They've strengthened, and the teams around them haven't strengthened as much, and so I would say that they have a good run ahead of them, and I will not say that Manchester City will not repeat because they are still looking extremely good, and Pep Guardiola, holy smokes, man, he's legit. But I will say they will not repeat, and Liverpool will win the title. Although I have to touch wood and make sure that I'm not jinxing them by saying that.
There you are. And his final question is, what is your favorite memory of being on the podcast?
Okay. Favorite memory. I'll give a handful because, again, I did not see these questions beforehand to prepare. One favorite is co-hosting with Ryan Scott and giving a certain mediocre DC book, the old one too, only to have it be one of the most downloaded episodes in history and be the most vitriolically received by Ryan Higgins. That was a great memory. Another top 3 memory for me is Toby's Man of Steel commentary preview that he did. If you guys haven't seen it, you should definitely find it on. Is it on YouTube? Mm-hmm. You should find Toby Sidler's Man of Steel commentary preview that he did for the preview that I would love to happen that Ryan Higgins will never allow to happen.
No, he actually did say a few months back when Bryce moves away, he would do a certain commentary. I'm just here to remind you what you said behind the scenes, that you said you might just have to do it.
Yeah, might just have to do it.
He also agreed.
That emphasis of might.
He also agrees publicly with his wife, who also shares the feeling that I've been said to be exhausting to deal with, and I think a lot of people can.
You're the same person. I keep saying it.
Appreciate that. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. Anyway, so that was another favorite memory. There's so many good memories of me and Omar coming in hot. As they say in the business, and maybe being a little too rowdy that Ryan had to quiet us down. Those are some great memories. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this whole thing has been full of great memories. You know, it's not part of the podcast necessarily, but I like how Higgins gets like a big crew together to go see DC movies. He doesn't do it for Marvel movies.
It's like almost all Marvel movies.
He gets all the good ones, but you know, he makes sure that for all
just last year we haven't done
for all the DC movies, he makes sure to get a full crew. And as much piss as I take out of Higgins in the DC movies, those are always fun events.
You wouldn't go if I didn't make you
with the guys.
For the DC one.
That's not true. You say, I have tickets. Do you want some? And I always took one.
Have you seen Ant-Man yet?
No, I have not seen it yet. I'm going to see it. But I have not seen it yet. Why? What is that?
Nothing.
Okay.
I just remembered the last time we were on together, you hadn't seen it yet. I
haven't seen a lot of movies or read a lot of comics in the past 5 months. Mm-hmm. I've been in chains, I tell you, chains. Oh, my life is so tough.
But there's no locks on those chains.
That's true, but they're heavy. Heavy is the arm that wears the chain?
Joseph wants to know, who on the podcast is the number one Bryce fan, according to Bryce?
According to Bryce?
Who of us, and Charlie, and Scott, is your number one fan?
You know, I would normally say Toby, because he's the only one that actually loves me. But recently... I don't know. I would say that Kevin has been edging you out these past couple of weeks and months. But let's be real. Let's be real.
Ouch.
The number one Bryce fan.
I guess you take over the 0.5 for him then. Yeah. I've been ousted.
Brock. Just kidding. That's not true at all.
Next to each other. I think that's about as far as it goes.
It's Higgins. I mean, let's be real. Like nobody loves Bryce as much as Higgins. Bryce is paid for. I can't even count how many months of mortgage on his house Bryce has paid for. How many fucking trips to Disneyland.
Sherlock Holmes needs his Moriarty. You are.
Which one am I? Don't ask the. Actually, you could ask the Twitterverse. I believe there's some poll put out where I edged Ryan out by a couple of votes, even though you have 10 times the followers. As to, I forget, it was something innocuous, probably like who's more handsome, and I can't believe you came that close. But anyway, yeah, so it's probably, So to sum it up, it's probably Toby.
Dennis says, what character in the X-Men animated series had the best voice? I still read X-Men comics with those animated series voices in my head when applicable.
Well, it's not Morph.
It's got to be Wolverine, right?
Yeah, it's for sure. It's
Wolverine.
100% Wolverine.
That voice is so iconic.
Oh, my stars and garters, it's also not Beast. And it's also not Storm, mistress of the elements. And it's also not Rogue, sugar. And I'll tell you, it's not Gambit.
It might be Gambit.
Gambit's good, but dude, Wolverine is so good. Like,
yeah, Wolverine's voice is really good, but that Gambit voice really stuck in my head. That really is how I read his comics, I think, with that voice.
And then I can't even do I was just going to the arcade. I can't even do Jubilee. I was just going to the arcade.
What?
Yeah, hey, my other ones were really good. I'm trying for Jubilee. Okay, I'm not a character artist. I'm just saying. Yeah, no, it's got to be Wolverine. I could, plug my nose and, Mr. Higgins. My name, it could be Mr. Higgins or it could be Professor X from the X-Men animated series. You'll never know because my voice sounds like this. What? I mean, I think that's what Professor X sounds like. I think that's what you sound like.
Okay. I sound like Professor X?
I think so because you're very wise.
Ah, okay.
# love the hub.
Anyone else favorite X-Men? X-Men voices?
No.
I mean, I just said them all.
I'm like, yeah.
It could be Mr. Sinister. I'll give that 50%. Yeah, I don't know.
You're right about the Gambit. I do think of his voice.
Yeah, I think of his voice a lot.
But then, to be fair, there hasn't been any other except for Tyler Kitsch or whatever his name is.
Doesn't count. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't count. Is that Channing Tatum thing ever going to happen?
No.
It's sort of like I was going to say half. That's being generous.
Okay.
90% of your DC movies.
Yeah.
Bryce, I'm giving you $100 bet. Which of these two things will happen with the $100? Todd McFarlane directing a live-action Spawn, or Channing Tatum in a live-action Gambit?
He said he's directing a Spawn movie. McFarlane. McFarlane is directing a Spawn movie.
I would say that it's more likely McFarlane because I just don't think that Channing Tatum will be Gambit.
He could shut something out really cheap if he wanted to, McFarlane. If he wanted to direct like some web series or something.
Exactly. That is like such a less... No, it said live action. Live action web series.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is that's such a lower bar to clear than getting Channing Tatum. So I'm just playing the odds like Gambit would do. Although he would probably say, never tell me the odds. Somebody famous once said that. Anyway, I don't think, but I do have to say that this whole like Disney Fox merger with the X-Men and Fantastic Four coming into the fold, this could be like a whole new fucking like generation of awesome comic movies. I mean, like again, this is a very long play. You know, we're still at step 0 of this whole adventure, but I mean, they could get to a point where the X-Men are actual like the Avengers are now, and Channing Tatum gets Gambit. So I would say Spawn and Todd McFarlane because that fucking dude is crazy, and he would do something like that if I bet against him just to spite me. But I would say that is my bet, even though I think that the X-Men coming to Disney is the greatest thing on earth.
Y asks, what does Bryce realistically see Liverpool Football Club achieving this coming season, considering only 2 out of 5 rivals have spent heavy on players? Sorry in advance to everyone for this question.
You're not sorry, first of all. But I appreciate the question, and I sort of touched on it earlier. So I think that Liverpool, I would like to think that they'll get the title. I think that they will be in the top 4, certainly. And I think that they could get second. I think that I see City doing almost as well, if not as well. I see them, getting 100 points again. I think that Arsenal and Chelsea need a rebuilding year with the new managers. Although they could surprise. I see Pochettino getting another over 80 points season with Spurs, and still getting top 4, even if it's only 4th. I don't see them winning. I mean, they've literally, as far as I know, signed nobody. They've just done contract extensions with their crew, which is great. But they've strengthened nobody, no particular positions. So I don't know how that's going to get necessarily any better. And then United, I just hate Jose Mourinho so much. That dude is such a little fucking whiny baby. I don't know how anybody supports Manchester United with him at the helm, because I mean, if you look at, they had the International Cup here in the States with all the international top clubs, and he was a fucking prick about it, and he was talking shit about it, and this poor guy that organized it for all these American fans of soccer were why is this guy such a dick? Anyway, so yeah, Mourinho's just awful, and I hope that they fucking get relegated, but that won't happen. So anyway, I see Liverpool. My brain says second, but my heart says first.
Travis, our good friend Travis over at Karen Comics, says, Bryce, your top 5 only 5.
Oh, fuck.
X-Men.
Okay, well, that's easy. Cable, Gambit, Magneto, Storm.
Beak.
I really want to say Maggot. I don't know. Let me think about it. Maybe Bishop.
Say it again?
No Wolverine?
Yeah, I was going to say, start at the top again?
So Cable. I mean, that's
Gambit.
always like an edge case, like with regards to X-Men, right?
Cable, Gambit.
So
Storm.
Cable, Gambit. Who else did I thought was it Storm? But who? Then what did I say?
Say Rogue Storm? I can't remember what you said.
No.
You start mumbling at that point. You want to say maggot.
No. Maggot was number 5. Let me see.
Did you say Bishop?
No, Bishop was possibly my 5th. Who did I fucking say? Are you kidding me? Who did I say? Archangel. Archangel's pretty badass. He might be.
Quentin Quire?
Oof. I actually, not sarcastically, really like Quentin Quire.
Hell yeah.
No, I said Storm was 3, and Archangel is 4, not to be confused with Angel. And then, oh man, I don't know.
That 5th spot's always the tough one. You're like, this kind of the rotating spot.
Well, it's yeah. Because as soon as you get down to like 4 and 5, it's like, oh well, arguments could be made.
Yeah.
Forge is very cool, but not
Nightcrawler?
a top 5. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler would be in my top 5.
Oh, you said Magneto. That's who it was.
Yes, Magneto. Thank you.
That's who it
if
was.
it wasn't for Magneto, I think is ahead of Storm actually. So
Yeah,
I
you
would
said Magneto. That's
okay,
who it was.
Magneto and then Storm, and then I might say Bishop. Although Bishop also went a little crazy. I was going to say that Nightcrawler would be in my top 5 if it wasn't for all this crazy religious shit that he like went through, where he's like a priest all of a sudden, like about a decade ago, and it's like I could do without that. Can you just leave religion out of it? He was much cooler in that capacity.
Travis also wants to know your top 5, or not your top 5. Sorry, what is your?
Anyway, I'm going to say Bishop, and that's the end of that question.
Okay, what is your top X-Men outside of comics? Video game. What's your? Is it like what is your favorite? Is it the TV show? Is it the old arcade game? Is it?
movie.
Is it? The movie.
Okay, so my top X-Men thing
what outside
is,
the comics? Is it like the '90s
the
Toy Biz
X-Men
action figure line?
90s animated series. Second is that big cabinet arcade game with the 6 players.
I love it.
It's fucking
No one stops the blob.
nothing better on earth. Third best thing
Welcome to die.
is, I mean, I'm trying to think of like what isn't comics related.
Oh, this is a spoiler question next, and I'm going to skip because you don't know that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wait, how many did I get? Did I get top 3?
He only asked for
You
one.
only asked for one.
Oh. Okay, then it's tied between the X-Men Cabinet Arcade and the 90s cartoon.
I'd probably say the same thing. I mean, I love some of the movies, but man, that '90s X-Men brawler was so good. I have so much memory, so many fond memories of playing that over
many.
golf
What
land
system
down the road.
eventually did that go on?
Nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
You never went on
No,
anything? It was just the arcade?
It was ported to iOS like fucking however many decades later. If it was a top 5 question and I had to round it out, I would say the Toy Biz action line, and I would say X-Men's 1 and 2.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. This is from Harry. He says, how does it feel to always be right, and how do you cope with that burden?
I've said this before, but
Kevin has a look on his face.
heavy is the head that wears the crown. I'm sorry, what was this handsome gentleman's name?
Harry.
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 Let me tell you, you must be a prince.
No, I think Prince like trolling us.
Prince Harry, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and it's lonely at the top, I will tell you. The most frustrating thing is dealing with the trolls. There's plenty of trolls. You don't even know how many trolls I have to deal with on Facebook and Twitter. Mostly Twitter. It's more anonymous. But there's, about 4-ish trolls in person on any given episode. And 2 of their names rhyme with Brian and Locke. In fact, there might only be 2 trolls.
I was going to say, we're 4 people.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it's a heavy burden. When they don't laugh at my dad jokes, the wounds stay, and it cuts deep. But you know what? It's about getting back up and dusting yourself off and getting back in the saddle and being right again and again. Because the real fans, Harry, the real fans, remember.
Chris says, who do you want to see in the team for Hickman's? Actually, I'm gonna. Well, okay. This is going to be a two-part question. We have two questions very similar about X-Men teams. One, this is from Chris. He says, who do you want to see on on Hickman's inevitable run on X-Men? There's a lot of rumors that Hickman's taking over X-Men, Uncanny Relaunch. Now, there's also rumors that he's not. So, but the other question is...
Glad we settled that.
Right, it's weird. It's like, he is. He totally is. Oh, wait, he's totally not. This is from Jonathan.
Oh my
he
God,
says,
Hickman on X-Men.
He says, here's this question for Bryce. Old Hank McCoy is at it again, using time travel to recruit a new X-Men team. But this time he's recruiting from the past, present, and future and parallel universes and timelines as well. You get 6 spots to make the all new, or old, or all different, or the same team. So we have 2 questions. You have Hickman is going to make an X-Men comic book.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Think realistically. Who does Hickman have on this team? Bryce gets to make an X-Men comic. Who does Bryce have on the team?
Oh, so this isn't who I would want Hickman to do. This is who I think Hickman will do.
But I'm taking these 2 questions because I don't want to have like crossover answers and everything like that. So
your 6 spots.
6 spots.
One is asking. You have the multiverse to deal with. You have all of time. Any X character. Who do you want on a team? And the question is, who do you want Hickman specifically to write on a team? We have 2 questions, 2 different people, Chris and Jonathan. But you might as well hammer them out at the same time.
Okay. They will have a lot of overlap because I think that there's some obvious go-tos.
But remember, Jonathan's is any X-Men, any era, any time, any parallel dimension.
So the tricky part about that is that I'm sort of dismissive and derisive of a lot of parallel universe X-Men stuff. I mean, not all of it, but like Bloodstorm, go fuck yourself. Like, there's a lot of like parallel universe that I just cannot be bothered
you don't like
with.
Blink?
Okay, I said a lot. I did not say all. I love Blink, but I get 6. She's not in my top 6. Blink is fucking awesome. I love Blink, but she is not making it. Okay, so I would take my for the Bryce X-Men. We kind of answered that already, so that's a little easier. But I would take my favorite X-Men. I would say that Hank McCoy would recruit Gambit from before he helped the fucking Marauders kill all the Morlocks in the tunnels. And Rogue, because if Gambit's going to be in there, I want some good Rogue Gambit shipping. So I guess that's already 2. If this is obviously going to be, a long-running series, so I want Maggot to start on the team because he'll get taken over at some point in time. No, Maggot probably wouldn't make it, so instead we'll have Cable. And then because there's, I think some good mythology there. As I mentioned, I would like Archangel to be on there. And so we are at 4 people. I would get Storm in there because I love Storm. Storm is fucking badass. So Rogue, Gambit, Archangel, Storm, and then, I mean, I just because it's so steeped in mythology, I would say Domino. Just kidding. I would say Wolverine, just because there's just so many directions they could go with Wolverine.
You can't have an X-Men book without Wolverine.
Exactly. As cop-out as an answer is to just throw Wolverine in. Wolverine's not in my top 5 X-Men, but I would put him on this book.
This sounds more like an X-Force title.
Well, who does...
Yeah, I fucking... Remender's X-Force run is one of my favorite X-books in years and years.
So Hickman specifically, who does Hickman write on the X-Men? Because that's a very different question.
Well, so, I mean, as depressing as it is for me, I wouldn't be surprised if Hickman goes with an almost classic lineup like he did with the Avengers. I mean, he had some crazy choices, but he had some old...
His crazy choices were like, who the hell did he have? He had Starbrand, and he had Cannonball.
Wasn't Starbrand and Nightmask, weren't they made up?
No.
Did they exist before Hickman's run?
Yeah.
They're from the new universe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that classic gem.
Yeah. In the
I don't know what that is.
Mid 80s, late 80s, Marvel launched a new line of comics called New Universe, and that's where these characters came from.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is legitimately interesting.
It's
okay.
crazy to me the Star brand is... He's now been in the Avengers comic under
That's
Aaron's
crazy.
run. Yeah, it's
So I would say
like a Hulk Star brand.
I would say just like that, there will be half classic names that people can buy the book for, and then there will be half very obscure characters that I couldn't even guess that he will dig up some crazy mythology on. Like, I bet Longshot would be a great call. Because he could like go deep with the Longshot mythology that hasn't really been touched on too much.
Can we get like a Mojo-verse like book? Like I want like a book like in.
Yeah, but the problem is that they'll have it written by Cy Spurrier, and it'll be the fucking worst piece of trash ever, and it'll just be awful. Like, how awesome would that Legion solo series could that have been? And it was just awful, and it didn't sell anything. If they had Donny Cates doing it, I think that I've asked this multiple times. Is it Cates or Coates?
Cates.
Is it still Cates?
Still Cates.
Anyway, they get Donny Cates to pull his head out of his ass about Cosmic Ghost Rider and go do a Mojoverse book or a Legion book. That'd be fucking dope. So anyway, I think that like that portal creating doorway girl from not the Runaways. What were they before they were the Runaways? It was the it was in the 80s. It was no, Rusty and Skids were on it.
New Mutants?
No. I'm not talking about Lila Cheney. She made Doors. I think that she died during the Psy complex.
Like
Fallen Angels. Thank you. But she was awesome. She came back.
That was out of the New Mutant stuff.
My point is that there would be like random characters like that he will.
Yeah, they were on X-Force, weren't they?
That he will bring up.
Didn't they join X-Force? Like late New Mutants, early X-Force stuff?
So they were part of New Mutants for like the middle of the New Mutants book like, in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then they came back in like the 2000s.
No, they were there with Liefeld, yeah. They were there at the very beginning of it, I think. Anyway,
I think that they weren't part of the team, even though they showed up in the book like again and again.
Right.
So we, I guess, are half in agreement. But anyway, I think that it'll be like characters like that, where you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even though the other half of the team will be very standby.
Warlock will 100% be on the team.
Okay, I can see that.
I feel like Warlock is like a Jonathan Hickman character because you just do crazy stuff with the language abilities.
Oh, that is a great call.
Yeah.
Okay, so great call. Yeah, so exactly. Characters like that have this like mythology like potential that hasn't really been touched on. And so I would need
some cool stuff with Warlock.
I would need longer to think about it. But you're right, like Warlock, I mean, like they've scratched the surface. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do more stuff with Bendis and the whole Venomverse with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Like that whole like the whole idea of a galaxy or planet of symbiotes is like crazy. The fact that they didn't like pimp that out more, exploit that more, seems like a missed opportunity that I think that Hickman might have done better with. But anyway, yeah. So I think that it'll be half mainstays. It'll be Colossus, Kitty Pryde, Wolverine, Storm, maybe Magneto, and then maybe 3 or 4 crazy fucking. Yeah. Oh my god! I hope not.
Larry says, "What's the best IP on the market? I too have great taste, and I'm always looking for a good one."
So, Larry, great question. It depends, Larry, on your predilection towards East Coast or West Coast styles. I am a pretentious West Coast snob and prefer the West Coast side of the IPA market, but have to acknowledge that the East Coast IPAs taste delicious because they taste like fucking orange juice, and you could drink 10 of them, and then your wife has to drive you home because you've died.
So apparently this hasn't happened.
So... but yeah, those East Coast ones will sneak up on you because they use these Citra hops, which are like super sweet. They like make it smell like fucking flowers and fruit, and they're delicious. And they're like 8-point-something%. It's crazy. So they are delicious. But my West Coast snobbery has led me to believe that the ones I specifically like, a lot of the Pacific Northwest beers, but 21st Amendment has some great ones. Ballast Point I think is a little overrated, but I really do like it. Let's see here. My favorite go-to in the stores is the green can blah 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 by 21st Amendment. 21st Amendment right here in San Francisco. Love that one. I used to be a bigger fan of the New Belgium ones out of Colorado, but those they tend to be sweeter than I like as my taste evolves. So I would say the Ninkasi ones out of Oregon, the Ballast Point ones. Actually, you know what I like more out of San Diego than the Ballast Point ones are the Green Flash IPAs that they have, and then 21st Amendment's blah blah blah, and the other ones that they have. As a point, I'm not really a big fan of the blood orange. Like, people keep trying to make their IPAs sweeter. It's like, you like it because it tastes like ass. It tastes like dirty and hoppy and bitter. That's what I like about IPAs, and so I understand the appeal of drinking, orange juice that's actually beer. But yeah, give me some blah blah blah, which is appropriate. That's my favorite beer.
What are you drinking tonight?
I should open my beer tonight.
While you're doing that, why don't I ask Nick Harrison's question?
Why don't you ask Nick Harrison's question while
I
open my Ninkasi Tricera Hops Double IPA? It's a robot Triceratops.
This is the most important question: light or dark beer? We were just talking about that.
So the answer is neither, but the answer is also that it really depends, as cop-out as an answer as that is. So light beer you obviously want when it's much hotter, when it's sunnier, when it's, a warm day, you've just played a bunch of soccer. The dark ones you want for like a cold Christmas evening when you're just chilling playing cards with your family. But really, the only answer is IPA, which is directly in the middle. There are lighter IPAs, there are darker IPAs. IPA on the spectrum stands right in the middle. So to answer your question, I have to say light if I had to choose, gun in my head between those two. But there's not a gun in my head, so IPA all the way.
Mark asks, do you think the art in most of the recent Marvel books the last couple of years has been par at best, if not subpar? How you feeling on Marvel's art the last couple of years?
Well, I can tell you about Marvel's art the last couple months has been a complete mystery to me. I will say, for those of you that did not catch that, I've been living with my in-laws the past 5 months and have read nary a comic book, and it has been absolutely killing me. I have this humongous backlog because just like I don't lock my children in rooms, I also have not been busting out my crazy comic collection in front of my in-laws. Just due to space. There's not a lot of space where I live currently. The art, I have not really been annoyed by the art. I think that the art a couple, say 2 years ago was par, maybe at best. Maybe I'd agree with that. But I really think that with Legacy, they really turned a corner, and a lot of the art got better and shored up, and a lot of the existing fine/good art, stayed fine/good. I cannot speak again to the past half year, but I would say that that it's been great. I know that Mike Del Mundo is a very polarizing figure, as is Humberto Ramos, but I've been liking everything that they're doing. Let's see. Just sort of looking. I've liked. Yeah, we got Andy Kubert. That's been fine. Who's that guy that copies everything that does the cover for Domino's? Greg Land. Love Greg Land. He's still doing stuff, even though I know that that's sort of a polarizing character as well. I don't know what books are particularly bad right now. And, whenever I see awful art,
just in the last couple of years,
I put it down.
How you feeling on the art?
I'm absolutely loving it. I think that it is. I don't read as much DC as I do Marvel, but I read, a fair amount of DC, and I would say that they are exactly equitable as far as I can tell. I think that they're both fine. They're both good, in fact.
All right. Original says Bryce. What do you like most about your other podcasters? No negativity here. What do you like most? Well, your other podcasters.
I'm going to start with
you can
Brock.
Choose. If Toby had to leave for a few minutes, he's going to be back. You can choose, Charlie as well.
We're going to go counterclockwise. I might run out of positive things by the time I get to Brock if I go the other way around. Just kidding.
I wouldn't carry that.
Brock, of all of the people at this table, Brock, other than, of course, excluding me, Brock is the best father of this whole table. Now, Brock has a lot of characteristics that some of them are exhibited in his sense of humor. Some of them are exhibited in his sense of style. Some of them are exhibited in his sense of, not sense, but his just knowledge of the world, knowledge of comics. But there's one thing that Brock does not compromise at all on, and that is his two children. And He takes it very seriously. He's, as far as I can tell, a great father, and he puts his kids before anything else in his life, and that is very commendable to me as a father, knowing how hard that actually is. And so I would say that that is an unsung quality of Mr. Sager that is not ever talked about.
Thank you.
Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins, I give a lot of shit. But I will say that he has, I wouldn't say literally, but I would almost say literally, done the impossible with what he's created here. You guys don't understand how hard it is to live in the Bay Area, much less run a mom-and-pop shop in the Bay Area, much less do so well that you move to a more expensive location in the Bay Area and not only get by, but actually thrive. I may not, when I first met him when he was in his 20s and I was in my teens, that sounds about right. I would never have guessed that the DC-loving Joker, who makes terrible decisions and has terrible opinions, could, on the other side of the coin, make such good decisions with regards to actual real life and business that, again, I said, he has not only just gotten through, but he has thrived in, like, the worst, kind of like the worst conditions ever. He's taken this, like, there's like a 0% chance that this succeeded, and he is a thriving business because of it.
This podcast from Syria now,
right.
so yeah.
Worst conditions ever.
You know what I mean.
Difficult financial.
I just mean that you can't set up a mom and pop shop in the Bay Area because they don't exist because you've been priced out of everywhere else.
Sure.
And so, like, spoiler alert, yeah, this podcast would not exist in Syria due to separate circumstances, possibly.
I think that might be the quote of the episode so far.
I just want to say that despite the piss I take out of Higgins, I really respect and like Mr. Higgins, and he's actually done with this shop the impossible to me. And so that is probably what I like most about Mr. Higgins is, despite his wrong opinions with everything, his actual good business sense as a man, as a person. So that's probably my thing for Higgins.
Thank you,
Mr. Sharp. Well, I don't know Mr. Sharp as well as I know everybody else here except for Lane, but I will say that my favorite thing about Mr. Sharp is he is, without a doubt, the smartest one on the podcast. He has the most experience with real life, such as we know it. He has the most experience with the industry, if you separate that from Higgins, because it's apples and oranges there. But he probably remembers more things than Higgins, despite not owning a fucking comic book shop. He probably remembers...
A guppy remembers more things than me, okay? Like, let's just get that over with.
Don't,
He forgot something this morning.
Kevin's thunder.
I forget lots of stuff.
So with regards to what I like most about Kevin is that Charlie likes everything, but if Kevin likes something, it's actually probably Higgins has like wrong opinions all the time. Charlie just likes everything. With Kevin, if Kevin actually likes something, it's probably based in some sort of like fact and reasonability. And so, like, if Higgins likes something, it's probably DC. If Charlie likes something, it's probably anything. And if Kevin likes something, then there's probably a legitimately good reason to like it. So my favorite thing about Kevin is he is easily the smartest and most well-rounded person on the podcast. With Lane I know the least on this podcast. But let me tell you guys something about Lane. Lane is the most generous member of the podcast that is, frankly, Lane, not to take away my compliment, but that's not hard. These guys are all selfish assholes. But I will say that Lane always brings the podcast members Christmas presents. He always brings stuff back for other people from Comic-Con. He always will stand in line if you need a bro to stand in line with. He gave me a very sweet going away present. his generosity is on par with Mr. Tyler Willits. He's always there. He's like the silent, strong friend that you have that's always there for you, even though he's not taking the spotlight away, which are my favorite friends. But yes, my favorite thing about Lane is his unwavering generosity that never gets mentioned, and it doesn't ever bother him. He just keeps on going on with his life. My favorite thing about Toby is it, even though he's here, it always feels like he's never here. Just kidding, Toby's not here right now. My favorite thing about Toby is of everybody at this podcast, he's probably closest to me in style in terms of his banter and witticisms and sense of humor and love of life. Toby has exhibited a lot of that, and he's not here for me to toot his horn, so to speak. So that's all I will say about Toby. Charlie is a mainstay, so I will quickly mention Charlie. My favorite thing about Charlie is his size. Just kidding. My favorite thing about Charlie is, as much as I was taking the piss out of him earlier, it is a very good quality to always be so positive and appreciative of everything in your life. That is actually much harder than he makes it seem. And Charlie loves everything and gives everything a chance, and even if something is bad, he'll probably give it at least a shot, and he'll probably like it if it's even half decent. And having that sort of outlook in life is super healthy, and I really admire that about him. Mr. Shea is another temporary member that I'll mention. I like Scott's banter. Scott's like second to Toby in his banter qualities. He's not as regular a co-host, so I'll just sort of leave it there.
All right, that's very nice. Dan asks, I'm going to jump over to Twitter. I have a couple. I have a lot. Just a couple we're not going to get to, but I'm going to try to get to as many as possible. You have to rank these. You do this very quickly. I'm going to say a title of an X-Men event. You tell me if it goes above or below the ones that have been mentioned previously. We're going to do this. We have 6 titles. Okay.
Wait. So when you get to the third thing that you mention,
you got to slot it in between. We'll slot them in.
Oh, so it's a like fluid ranking.
Yep.
Got it.
Days of Future Past. I mean,
number 1.
Okay, it's number 1.
Well, out of 1.
How do you rank Dark Phoenix Saga over Days of Future Past?
Dark Phoenix Saga is number 1.
Okay,
Days
so Dark Phoenix Saga number 1, Days of Future Past number 2.
I can't write these down. Okay.
We'll do this. Executioner Song.
Executioner Song. Okay, is this with my heart or with my brain?
Doesn't matter.
Heart. Just go heart.
It's always heart.
Okay, Executioner Song.
Dark Phoenix is number 1. Days of Future Past is number 2.
Wait, hold on. I'm
overload.
He's clutching his head for the listeners, and we are on option 3.
I always get only because this one I always get Executioner Song confused with Extinction Agenda. Extinction Agenda was the end of the New Moons, right? Okay. Executioner Song. That's
Executioner Song on the table.
Okay, that's number 2. Number 2. That's
okay,
going to number 2.
Dark Phoenix Saga, Executioner Song, Days of Future Past. Where does Fall of the Mutants fall?
Fall of the Mutants is 4th. I mean, that's great, but every list, Captain America's got to have a last place.
How about Fatal Attraction? You have Dark Phoenix Saga, Executioner Song, Days of Future Past, and Fall of the Mutants. Where's Fatal Attractions fit in there?
That's below Fall of the Mutants.
Wow. Okay, all the way at the bottom.
I mean, Fatal Attraction, it was barely a story. Like,
wasn't it Romita?
No. Okay, I'll tell you this, though. It had the fucking easily best covers of anything that you're going to list here. I'll tell you that.
And finally, Age of Apocalypse.
Okay, number 1.
Really?
Oh.
Okay.
100%.
So, Age of Apocalypse.
My favorite event ever, I would have put the Messiah Complex, that whole trilogy.
Okay.
I mean, I've spoken...
Age of Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix Saga, Executioner Song, Days of Future Past, Fall of the Mutant, Fatal Attractions. That sounds right?
Yep, that sounds right.
All right, there we go. There you go. He also wants to know, do you like sour beers?
No. So, look. Gin...
Start the timer.
Gin is getting... What timer?
Nothing.
Gin is like the new, like, trendy... like spirit, right? I think that like more and more you see like gin bars opening up. Like for a while it was like whiskeys and bourbons were like the new up and coming thing. Now it's like gins. Gins are the new pretentious fucking douchebaggery of spirits. And I'm certainly guilty of falling into the whole whiskey bourbon bandwagon. But I just had too many bad nights of gin in college that I've had one gin drink in the past 2 decades because of that. Everything else has been anything else but gin. So anyway, in that exact same vein, I'm getting to my point, believe it or not, is that IPA has certainly been riding a wave of popularity and trendiness. And now it's like, I don't know who it is, but people are trying to push this sour beer thing. Sour beers are not as alcoholic. They fucking taste like vinegar. They're twice as expensive as an IPA for half the number of ounces of beer. Now, look, I'm sure that some sour aficionado will come back and tell me to fuck myself. But, I've tried sours. It fucking tastes like vinegar. And I'm only drinking 10 ounces of it, and it cost me $14. And so, anyway... not a fan of sours at all. They can go fuck themselves and die.
All right. Karuba wants to know, I don't know how much you want to talk about this. He goes, what does Bryce do for a living? We don't talk about this much on here. We've mentioned it in passing.
I'm happy to say this on my last episode.
If you couldn't tell...
So
Bryce's personality lends itself to a specific... field.
Indeed. So
male gigolo?
I'm actually a very introverted lab rat. No, wait, that's actually entirely not true at all and completely the opposite. In fact, so I'm in sales.
Of course.
I sell market research. For those of you that just fell asleep, that means there are companies all around the world. I mean, you can LinkedIn me. You can find me on LinkedIn if you're a business professional. There's a good chance I won't add you if I don't know you. But yeah, so I do sales for a market research company. Lots of companies around the world want to know. So market research is like, you know how you guys you want to find a good restaurant, you go to Yelp, for example, because it's a good third-party opinion of what is good. Fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so market research works in the same way where Toby's Apple, wants to know, okay, how many iPhones, are actually being sold in, I was going to say Syria because we just talked about it. That's a pretty poor example. How many iPhones were sold in France as opposed to Brazil in Q3 of 2017? This data helps.
Now they're asleep.
Exactly. So this data that we can offer them, they may have their own metrics, but that's not necessarily what the industry records. I don't know if their suppliers are holding out on them or whatever, but we have numbers as to how many iPhones were sold, which versions of iPhones were sold, versus which Android devices were sold and which sort of species of the Android, which models of the Android devices were sold in the same markets, in specific countries, in specific quarters of the year. So if you will wake up for just 1 second, I will say that what that means is all these companies get to understand, okay, I'm about to make $1 billion investment into a certain territory or into a certain product line. I need a third-party opinion to verify where, I could put $100 million into Brazil, and might see 1% return, or I might put $100 million into China and see a 200% return. And the only person that can tell them that, other than their own data, which is skewed and suspect, is a third-party market research firm. So I sell data, and I sell the people that collect this data. And if you want to access them, it's very expensive. And I'm not bad at it. I'm quite good, if I do say so myself. And so, yeah, I sell market research. So the subject matter is not sexy. I came from a startup background. I was trying to chase the golden startup, and that didn't work for my 20s. And then when I got to be 30, my wife was like, okay, buddy, time to get a real job that's much more stable. And so gone are the sales months of 200% of quota, 0% of quota, 200%, 0%. Now I have, it's much more like my bad months will be 80% of quota, and my good months will be 110, 120% of quota. And so it's much more stable and steady for a salesperson. Which, by the way, in case this whole time you've been like, how is Bryce so handsome and have such a good sense for business? I actually deal with a lot of real life businesses every day of my life that have to make these like humongous dollar decisions. And yeah, I have to deal with that day in and day out every day of my life. And so I find it fascinating, the big business of the big 2.5. Until Batman goes on his own way, and then it'll be the big 3.5 hashtag Batman is California. But yeah, that's what I do for a living. Sell market research. It is not sexy, but it's fun. It allows me a lot of time with soccer, comics, and my family. I make it as sexy as it can be, which is a trial.
Jamie wants to know, if you could have the X-Men fight the Rogues Gallery of either Flash or Batman, who would you choose?
All right, look. It would... okay, I think that actually, like, HeroClix-wise, since that's the barometer, the Rogues Gallery for the Flash...
Like, the Rogues would actually give the X-Men a run for their money.
...is better on paper, yes,
yeah.
than Batman's Rogue Gallery. But only because of the fucking shocking nightmare that was AVX, I would say that I would rather them fight Batman's Rogues Gallery. Because... I would actually like to see Batman's Rogue Gallery fight Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, because they're both so ridiculous. I'm sure that some fucking Joker would have, pun not intended, would have Crazy Quilt beat fucking Wolverine because of some crazy shit that like only a terrible, awful writer that hates me could do.
I'm just wondering, like, you know, it's so weird when you take Batman's villains outside of Batman.
Right, because he's a fucking human, and the X-Men are powerful AF.
Yeah, like, what does the Joker do to the X-Men? Like, how does that fight go down?
I mean, it doesn't. Because
he's fought Superman. I mean, Joker.
Well, of course, of course, Joker would have to team up with Arcade and Mojo.
That's. Okay, funny that you say that. I was going to say, very similarly, I could see a scenario that either Arcade or Mojo, but sure, if they're working together, was manipulating things to the advantage of the Rogues Gallery. But I don't think that either of those Rogues Gallery... I mean, you're dealing with all humans, no matter whose Rogue Gallery you're talking about, for, 90% of them.
Yeah.
Versus the X-Men, who are 0% baseline humans.
Right.
So anyway, great question. I would like to see it actually more against Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery. I think it's a much more even match and equally ridiculous. I mean, White Rabbit versus Firefly. Like, I could get behind that.
He also wants to know, if you could steal 3 DC heroes and bring them to Marvel, who would you steal?
Well, okay, so it would probably be John Constantine, Booster Gold, and Batman. Because those are the 3 best DC characters.
Okay.
Hashtag Batman is California.
I'd be. I could see Constantine. I mean, he kind of works in either one. Oh, Booster. What's Booster's?
What are you talking about? Booster is basically you turn that knob 1 or 2 ticks and he's Deadpool. Like,
maybe.
And then Batman, just because I'm jealous. Batman is so good. And we'd get Tom King back.
hey, no. No, it's ours. This is from Kevin. He says, who does each member of the podcast support in Premier League? If you had to pick a team for all of us, who would we support?
I was going to say, none of them support any Premier League teams. Higgins pretends to support Arsenal.
Like Arsenal.
But
support Arsenal.
I guarantee you he could not tell you
what are we talking about?
Any score lines from any game Arsenal's ever played ever.
No,
I like he did not know their manager until I said his name earlier.
I like the Red Sox, therefore I have to like Arsenal, right? Because it's the same owners, right?
No, FSG.
Is that not Arsenal?
Fenway Sports Group owns Liverpool.
Oh, is it Liverpool?
And the Red Sox.
Yes. Oh, Liverpool. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, you said Arsenal. Sorry. No.
No, you
in the past,
support Arsenal.
In the past I have. Yeah, Arsenal. Maybe I had that backwards. Oh, no. Sorry, you know what? You don't know Kevin. You know Kevin. Never mind.
This is a conversation we're having.
Didn't Kevin ask us this question?
Different Kevin. Third Kevin.
Fucking
third
A.
Kevin.
How many Kevins
third
are
Kevin.
there?
Third Kevin.
Kevin,
there's one right across from me.
One of you
Liverpool.
has to change your name.
You are correct. Liverpool.
What about?
Go ahead. No, yeah, but if
are you saying that I'm right? Because
of
that's
course, of course. In this case, you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I pretend to support.
Okay, so Ryan would support
Arsenal.
Yes.
But you're saying that you should support Liverpool?
But I should support Liverpool.
So what the fuck is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay.
He likes Man of Steel.
Brock is going to support West Ham.
I don't even know what the hell.
If you guys knew West Ham supporters stereotypically, you would be like, Brock belongs as a West Ham supporter. West Ham are in the Premier League. No, he said specifically Premier League. So okay, I couldn't even if they weren't. But all stereotypical West Ham supporters, you would confuse them with Brock because he is a thuggish, ruggish soccer hooligan fan. I mean,
we're talking about soccer.
If bandanas made it over to merry old England, they would, all the West Ham supporters would be with Brock. Plus, he's got the ginger side of him, which I feel like is like half of England anyway. Anyway, okay, Kevin would probably, I don't know, he'd probably support Leicester because he's got some great story about how decades ago they were this Cinderella team and he's following them and then they just won the Premier League a few years back and he saw it coming when nobody else did because he actually knows some guy that knows the owner that knows about the great signings they made. I don't know. Just due to intelligence, I would say he supports Leicester. I don't know. Lane couldn't give less of a fuck. Lane's a Chelsea supporter. Lane is just like, I just like to see teams spend a lot of money and win. Lane, I don't know why that's Lane, but it is. Toby, let's see. Toby's probably no, not Toby. Fucking Charlie's a Manchester United supporter because fuck him. And then, let's see. Oh, no. Okay, the team Charlie supports, I'm sorry. Toby supports Manchester United because fuck him. Charlie supports Tottenham Hotspur because there's nothing that you can ever hate about Tottenham Hotspur. Everything, you can't hate a single thing about them. Everything about them is just super nice and G-rated. They don't have any drama. They don't have any antics. They don't have any shenanigans. It's very boring, nice soccer. They always do well. Charlie would like them even if they weren't doing well, but they will always do well. So anyway, that's how it is.
Talon wants to know, what do you like in your hamburgers?
Well, Talon, I also get extremely pretentious and douchey about my hamburgers. Let me tell you about my hamburgers.
Start the timer.
I actually get a relatively small patty. Now, that is not a euphemism, Talon, so take it easy. But I will get a small patty because it's loaded up with a lot of other shit that's unhealthy. So, my ideal hamburger, which is not what I always get, but this is my ideal hamburger, is I get lettuce because you got to have some roughage in there. Otherwise, that hamburger is coming out as fast as it goes in. And you get some tomato. Tomatoes, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, are the suspected #1 deterrent against prostate cancer. So if you don't want to get prostate cancer, load up on the tomatoes. It's probably good for you. Plus, tomatoes, they're good, and they're also kind of roughage. So let's get to the good stuff. I get a little bacon. I am the fucking worst about bacon. I like the soggy, flappy bacon. And every place burns the fucking shit out of bacon, and that's fine. You just got to deal with it. But I'm the worst. I will disassemble. Drives my wife crazy. I will disassemble the burger, and I will lay out the bacon so that it makes a fucking equal square footage across my burger. I hate when you get bacon on your burger. You eat 7 bites in a row of no bacon, and then you eat one bite and it's all the bacon. You're like, what the fuck? So anyway, that bacon can go straight to hell. I lay out the bacon so it's got
work your bacon.
I don't lattice, but that's a good call. I do get a good cross section so that there's equal opportunity for the bacon bites. Anyway, then I get avocado. Now some places are the fucking worst. They half slice up they'll give you 2 slices of avocado. It's what is fucking avocado rare as gold? What the fuck? So
outside of California, probably.
But I only get it in California. That's where I live. But good call.
Not in a few weeks.
Zing fail. Oh, zing success. Okay, so I will make sure that the avocado also has equal square footage across the burger. Lastly, well, not lastly. So sorry, nice try. I like to get, if I can, I like to get an egg. the soft boiled egg, and if I can, sometimes they cook it too much, and that's fine. I'll accept it. I love the egg, but my hamburger. I would like to pop the yolk so that it gets good yolk square footage across my burger. So that is almost my exquisitely perfect burger. But what I'll do is, because I'm so healthy with the burger that I just described to you in way too much detail, is I will remove one of the two buns, either the top or the bottom. And then, that is because, by the way, carbs and gluten are absolutely useless.
He's about to eat the goddamn thing with a fork, isn't he?
Are absolutely useless for human consumption. Carbs and gluten, carbs are just filler for your body. Gluten was designed by farmers to fill up humans. It has no nutritional value other than just fill you up. And if you haven't been fucking listening, my burger is going to fill you up. So, what you do is you take only one of the two buns, but whichever one you keep, you hold it on the bottom. Even if you're only keeping the top bun, you get rid of the bottom bun, but you hold it upside down. The point being is that this burger is going to be juicy AF, and you want all the juices and deliciousness that leak out of this burger, because you're getting your burger medium rare, by the way, because otherwise you're a fucking heathen, and you want the juices to be absorbed by the bun that is... I'm kind of hungry for a burger right now. You get the juices absorbed into... I should probably eat my dinner. You got me talking this whole time. I haven't even drinking any beer. What the fuck? Okay, so you get the bottom bun to absorb all the juices, and I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that will give you heartburn and probably kill you the same day. But that ketchup, will be mustard, the best...
No onions, no pickles.
Usually it'll come with some sort of, and I'm saying this without sarcasm and without a little snicker, with a special sauce. It's usually mayo based. I will have ketchup, but ketchup with avocado just seems like such a weird thing. If there can be a mayo based, maybe a garlic aioli, those are my favorite. But some sort of special sauce and or aioli, not too much, but just a little bit. With the egg and the avocado and the juiciness of the burger, you got enough moisture there. You don't need sauce. But
I think we have something for our YouTube channel where Bryce just goes and eats something.
For the 5 people still listening, can I jump in here?
You can, yeah.
First off, you said. You prefaced with, I get a small burger patty. Do you find that loading it up with all of that other stuff overwhelms that there's a hamburger there? Could you just eat that sandwich and just hold the burger patty? You've got an egg and bacon and avocado, lettuce, tomato, and a special sauce and a bun.
So this is a special
Do you actually
BLT?
need the burger?
So you're almost talking about a BLT, add avocado, and we're sort of there.
And hamburger.
Right, but you're saying add the hamburger.
Yeah, right.
So,
I'm wondering, does the...
I have done that. Okay. I've gotten a BLT with avocado. Not as good. Something about the little meat patty. I just get a third of a pound, just a small patty. Not those fucking half pounds or double quarter pounders can go fuck themselves, because that's just too much. Look, in reality, when I go, because I'm a man of extreme good taste, I will get either the bacon or the egg, not both, because that's just fucking crazy. I'm just talking about my ideal burger that I don't get.
And would you prefer, do you think, given the size of the patty you're talking about, would you prefer a slider over a full hamburger? If you could have 2 sliders instead of your small burger, would you take that deal?
So that is just crazy. I'm not sure how you got your credentials as an interviewer, because that is the craziest question I've heard you ever ask me. Well, because
you prefaced with, I get a small patty.
Those are... No. I mean small comparatively. A third of a pound is still a fucking hamburger patty. It's just smaller. But sliders, you can't fit all that. Have you been here the past 20 minutes that I've been describing my hamburger?
We're at 6.5 right now on this one question. This is the record of all of these questions: X-Men events, beer, what you do for a living. What you get on your hamburger is the number one question.
That's because I keep getting interrupted. I would say...
you're hungry.
Well, that could be too. Looking at you, Burrito. That is because... this fucking... All that shit that I was describing as my perfect burger couldn't fit on a slider. That's just craziness. Of course I need a full-size burger or sandwich to... And by the way, if there was a BLT that added avocado and hamburger bun, it would be what I just described, so...
Please tell me the next question is, what does he get on his burrito?
We have 2 questions left.
I know the answer to that. We don't need it to be asked.
We have 2 questions.
You're just going to post it in the Facebook group.
Josh says, who's your favorite artist of all time, Besides Archerm, obviously.
Greg Capullo.
Yeah, it's not. I'll tell you who it's not. It's not Greg Capullo or JRJR, even though I could beat at least one of them.
I know the answer.
Indian wrestling.
I know the answer. I totally know the answer.
What?
I 100% know the answer.
I don't even know the answer. How the fuck do you know the answer?
I know the answer.
Because that's his special power.
Okay, my favorite artist ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to disappoint you with your wrong answer, but it's Jim Lee.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I came up in the 90s.
Right.
You know, love McFarlane.
So maybe you could get him to read the Sandman book that comes out because there's a Jim Lee cover.
The Jim Lee variant.
So I like Mark Silvestri. Obviously love Alex Ross. Doesn't belong in the...
No, that is your X-Men, the Jim Lee X-Men. That is your...
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, if you drew X-Men, there's a 50% chance... Like the Kuberts. Fucking love the Kuberts. I was going to say, if you draw the X-Men, then you have a better chance of being loved by me, but JRJR can GFY or GFH. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Humberto Ramos, fucking, I mean, yeah. Archerm, I've never seen a comic drawn by him, but his covers are fucking dope. Ever since I learned about him.
Oh, he's never drawn a comic.
I believe it was last week.
Wait, I lost the thread here. Is your favorite of all time? That's the question?
Yeah.
Jim
Favorite
Lee.
of all time is Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Full
Because
stop.
those others are just artists you like.
Yeah, John Byrne,
Okay.
probably top 5,
Yeah.
just due to the classicness. I mean, John Romita Sr., probably top 5. In fact, if I had to list all my top 5, it'd be way more than top 5. Or it'd be way more than 5.
All right, fine. This sounds like a good last question. This is from Craig Anderson. Very appropriate last question.
God.
He says, who is, not your favorite, who is the greatest X-Man of all time, and why is it Maggot? That's his question. Well, we can skip the Maggot part. Who is the greatest X-Man?
Well, Higgins, I'm about to blow your mind.
Take your personal opinion out of the equation.
Because it's Maggot.
Who is the greatest X-Man?
I mean, look, let's establish something very quickly. It's Cable. And I'm not saying this to pander to Nadia, because she'll never vote for me, because she's a traitorous... Well, anyway. Look, Cable came about due to a loving situation between the greatest leader of the X-Men and... At this point, frankly, I forget if he was tricked by Madeline Pryor or if he was just into it. Or, sometimes when it's been a little while, those ladies say hello to you and it's like, oh, hello. And, there's a baby later. So that's kind of what happened with Baby Cable. And so Baby Cable, from the loins of 2 of the greatest X-Men, and I include Madeline Pryor because she's a clone of Jean Grey, 2 of the greatest X-Men created the greatest X-Men, who would go on to have one of, if not, he's certainly in the top 3, most complicated, which I love, and I hope Hickman includes him in his run, complicated mythologies that there is, even more complicated by the fact that they've put a bunch of fucking batshit crazy writers on him that have even just more complicated his storyline. But he has flirted with being an X-Men. He's been their greatest ally and sometimes their greatest nemesis, or at least greatest antagonist. I mean, like, any story with Cable... I mean, I'm trying to think of something wiser to say, but I think that I've tapped out. He's, so he's the best thing that ever happened to the X-Men. I mean... The X-Men came about in a time of social change, and they needed to evolve. And in doing so, ironically, they became something greater than themselves, which is adding to their roster, to their family. And that addition included Cable. And anytime that you add somebody with such a complex mythology, that's only going to help your mythos and your I guess. I'm not sure, history and sociology. And so, yeah, so it's, sorry, Craig, not sorry, take that.
Not Maggot.
It's Cable. But right up there is Maggot, because no joke, Joe Mad can draw a great fucking comic book. And
Great Maggot.
If 99% of your appearances are drawn by Joe Mad, you're probably up there. I mean, like, Greg Capullo has probably drawn a bunch of fucking Cable and, probably made Cable look terrible with square fingers, just like JR. But you know who's never drawn Maggot? JR. So, Maggot 1, Cable 0. Hopefully that satiates Craig. But yes, Cable is the greatest X-Men ever. Now, if it was not Cable, because Cable doesn't qualify, because
this is the best that you answered his question, and then you go, but if that's not the answer, let me give you another one.
No, I'm just saying that, like, you could argue... certainly, if this was Higgins' argument, I would argue that Cable does not count as an X-Men. I would say that the greatest X-Men...
Are we going to have enough space on our list?
I would say that the greatest X-Men after Cable, as low... It's obviously Gambit, but as low as I'm to admit it, it's actually Wolverine.
Yeah. Who's the people's X-Men? It's Wolverine.
Exactly. Right. So I will not take that away from him. I really do like Wolverine. He's just been so done that it's tough to... It's easier... I'm a romantic. I'm very romantic at heart, which is why I ship so many
sitting on
fucking
the side of the table right now.
Comic book people, comic book couples like Colossus and Kitty Pryde and Rogue and Gambit, obviously, and Batman and actually Wonder Woman, but I'll take Catwoman. And so, as a romantic, I loved rooting for the underdogs, and you know who's the underdog for a couple of years? Wolverine. You know who is not the underdog for the next several decades? Wolverine.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I like Wolverine. Is just, I like rooting for more underdog folks.
Before we wrap up, I have a...
Do we have any non-Bryce stuff that we can possibly talk about?
No.
I'm so hungry.
Yeah, no. We got a couple things. We're going to wrap up here. I got a nice message from someone on Twitter. And I'm going to read this, and then Kevin has something that he needs to read. So let's start with a message from Bryce Larsen Quotes.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Should I get a handkerchief?
I still remember the day when I first turned... I already messed this up. When I first tuned into the Comics Conspiracy Podcast. I was a fresh-faced young lad just dipping my toes into the world of comic podcasts. I didn't know what to expect, nor could I have ever known how my life would change from that ever so fateful decision to press play. During that first episode, it was all just voices. Confusion and chaos reigned as I tried to wrap my head around all the different personalities in the room.
So unlike now.
I heard Ryan and Brock giggling with one another over their silly Marvel jokes. I heard Charlie chime in on every topic, explaining how much he liked it. I heard a random person yelling things off mic who I later learned to be Toby. And as I continued to listen, I kept thinking to myself, who is this other crazy, handsome gentleman I keep hearing saying nonsensical but also right things? Is it another misguided DC lover, or is this something else altogether? I think I'm going to like this guy. That voice was none other than the great Bryce Larsen. Oh. It wasn't long before I realized that the things Bryce was saying were so valuable, so profound, so hilarious, and so unbelievably eloquent that someone needed to write them down. And so Bryce Larsen Quotes was born. It's been a journey, to say the least. I can never... this goes on for a long time. Get ready, okay? It's been a journey, to say the least. I can never thank Bryce enough for the meaning he gave to my life. This Twitter account gave me purpose. I don't know what I'd do in life without these long, long hours I've spent into the night working tirelessly to deliver the best quotes every single week. This is more than just a Twitter account. It's even more than just an amazing T-shirt business. Bryce almost spilled his beer all over my floor. It's a way of life. It was my destiny, and sure, it has its difficulties. I'm a little deafer than when I first began. But in the end, it was worth it. It'll be hard to let go, but as we enter into the dark reign of the Comic Conspiracy Podcast, I have one small sliver of hope. A single phrase that most adequately describes the podcast legacy of Bryce Larsen. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. In honor of Bryce, I want to ask a few things from the other members of the podcast, little acts to pay respects to Mr. Larsen before he departs to Oregon.
Oh, nobody told me I had to pay respects.
Yeah, so some of these we can't do because fortunately Charlie and Toby are not here. But for Charlie, and I think we can maybe answer for them. For Charlie, I asked that will he willingly relinquish his podcast, or his position as well as the number one Cable fan. It's only right that Bryce be given the title he rightfully deserves. I think if you ask Charlie what his number one X-Men is, I don't think he would say Cable. So we'll give it to you. You could be the number one Cable fan from now on, okay?
For a day.
Wow. I was going to say for this week, but I'll take it
from Toby, I beg of you, to just once say the name Ryan Reynolds again. Please, for your old 0.5 episode partner's sake, he will get him to say this soon when he does return. Now for the rest.
That is one of the greatest gifts of all.
From Brock, I ask that you package Bryce's comics with extra love and care, making sure to keep those DC comics as far away from his order as possible.
I'll put something special in your box.
From Scott, I ask that you double down on loving Marvel. Love it like you've never loved anything before. Someone needs to defend that great comic company in Bryce's absence.
True, Scott.
From Kevin, I ask that you fulfill your promise on Twitter of being on the podcast more often. We could all use a little bit more Kevin to help us get through these dark times.
Oh.
It's true.
I don't remember making that promise, but thank you for the sentiment.
He's probably just asking you. We all needed more Kevin.
No, there might be a tweet out there that's come back to haunt you.
Oh.
And finally, Mr. Higgins. Oh, Higgins, you handsome devil. The thorn of Bryce's side all these years. His nemesis, his rival, his yin to his yang, the Joker to his Batman, the chink in his armor, some might say. For you, I have just one simple request. Admit the truth, for all those listening, the truth that we all know deep down. Bryce is right. Marvel is better than DC. Now, before I finish, let me answer this question, okay? There's not a question in my mind that without Marvel, there would be no comic book industry, there would be no DC Comics. It would be gone. There is, I would never, you can't, Superman and Batman just predate everything, right?
Yeah.
Marvel is undoubtedly the most important comic book company. It's not even a question.
Okay.
Right? I love DC. No?
The rise in the 60s of Marvel Comics really it established it.
They saved the entire industry.
Yeah,
he's on a roll. He's on a roll.
Yeah, it's not even a question.
Adding to it.
I don't think anyone would disagree with this, right? I mean,
They still suck.
Marvel and DC started a lot of the stuff, and obviously you had these companies come and go. But without Marvel, DC wouldn't have had a counter. Nothing would have continued. We may have had comics. Some things would have probably kept going, but
they still would have pumped those weird ones out of San Francisco.
Sure, stuff would have kept going, but I don't think there's even a question that we would not have this industry we have now without Marvel. Like full stop, 100%. Is Marvel the most important company? Yeah, no. Is it my personal favorite? No, but I will give you that easily Marvel is the most important.
I'll take it.
Well, friends, family, fellow Bryce supporters, that is it. All good things must come to an end. To be truly meaningful, I suppose they must. But the end doesn't just have to be just an end. It can also be a new beginning. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. A brighter future awaits as Bryce will return like a phoenix from the ashes. And when he does, he'll be back better than ever. The Comic Conspiracy Podcast will be great again. So don't give up. You can preserve, be strong, be brave. Hold your X-Men comics close and your beloved podcast personalities closer. And most of all, never, ever forget, Batman is California. So that's from the lovely Bryce Larsen quotes.
Wow.
Oh.
That's got me shedding a tear.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, kind sir. Keep the mystery alive. One day we will meet at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not sure.
I do want to just get this out there. Nobody knows who this is. This is not us. This is not me. I do really, really
I will
wanna...
be seriously butthurt if it's one of you. When we're supposed to meet at San Diego Comic-Con at some undisclosed year.
See, you may have already met Bryce Larsen quotes and
just
not
don't
even know it.
I mean, yeah, of course. Is it fucking you?
Now, before we wrap up...
I don't think so.
Before we wrap up, Kevin Sharp also has...
Oh, my God.
Something he would like to say before we end.
Oh, dear.
So as we come to the finish line here, Bryce, amongst every other freaking thing I have to be working on right now, I carved out some time to write a poem about you.
Oh, my God.
Now,
I fucking haven't cried enough this episode.
Now, this is,
Jesus Christ.
I borrowed the format of a very famous poem, and so in honor of that...
Hickory Dickory Dock.
Yes. Yes. There once was a man named Bryce.
Bryce does rhyme with the fucking shit.
No, although this poem has nothing to do with the holidays, in honor of the homage I'm giving here, I'm going to call this The Bryce Before Christmas.
Oh, my God.
I wish we had a professional reader for this, but here you go.
Well, I'm one. No.
Okay. 'Twas the evening's end on Tuesday, an era closing at last, for the store called Comics Conspiracy and the Comic Conspiracy podcast. The man's handle is Bryce Larsen, or on Twitter, Larsen Bryce. His beer of choice, IPA. His curry, Hold the Spice.
Are you crying over there?
Oh man, did people miss out on an amazing event last week? We discovered.
By the way, it's not a 2-stanza poem. There's still much more to go.
I know. I just said we discovered that Bryce cannot handle his spicy food.
Correct. It is my Ryan Higgins or my kryptonite.
Now I got to get my rhythm back here.
Go.
Okay. His games are soccer and trolling Higgins. He'll do either when he can. He's definitely the number 1 Marvel defender, though officially only the number 2 cable fan.
Oh.
Having hundreds in store credit would make any comics fan feel stoked, though the price for Bryce of shopping here is hearing all Brock's jokes.
Yes.
So many faces come go round the table. Tobias, Charlie, Scott, and Lane. None of them quite so dashing as Sunnyvale's own Bruce Wayne. Hashtag Batman is California. Bring up any topic, and Bryce will tell you how he feels. Watch him wrestle Greg Capullo, or even braver, debate Ryan on Man of Steel. Chipotle burrito in his hand, earbuds, faux hawk, all the rest. Hey, Bryce, look up from your phone. Enough of that Marvel puzzle quest. If you've ever heard him raving and thought perhaps of a man gone mad, then be very afraid of all his influence in his secret identity as Dad. Hashtag Life with JT. Hashtag Life with Haley.
Oh.
Some podcast moments have enraged him. Others perhaps made him weep. Some more were just annoying, like Scott Snyder's kitchen beep. The great northwest state of Oregon will soon be his place to roam, and maybe when he gets there, he can stop sneaking all those omnibuses home. Oh, whoops, spoiler. Now, as the guest of honor sails not briefly to his future bright, I'll raise a drink up for my friend and tell our listeners good night.
Oh my God. I'm dying. That was wonderful. That was wonderful.
That was wonderful. That was great.
So you can't handle spicy food?
I feel like I have to respond to you in time with everything that I have to say must be answered in a rhyme.
Oh, shit. Look what you did.
The going demon. I know. I'll etrigan here.
Anyway, no, I am absolutely the worst with spice. I always have been. It drives my wife crazy. I can't handle spice. It's like my wife will have any mediocre spice and I'll be like sweating and tears will be coming out my eyes and she'll be like, "Oh gosh, you're the worst," and just like not be bothered by it at all. But yeah, I can't handle spice at all. It is my only physical weakness. You heard that, Greg Capullo?
Oh, jeez.
He's going to come at you with a pepper.
Pepper. Holding his pepper with square fucking fingers. Just kidding.
All right. That has been a very non-traditional episode of the Comic Conspiracy Podcast. Now, this was all in good fun. Bryce, like I said at the beginning of this episode, you're going to be moving.
I'm going to be here in September.
You're going to be here in a few months. We're going to hear from you probably even before then. We do have some stuff we're going to talk about when you get up there. I'd love to get some more regular content from you. And I think actually, being here, you're always coming here. Knowing you're not going to be here as often might even motivate us to actually get some of the stuff done on a more frequent basis, actually get back to the Bryce Brieflies and things like we had done in the past.
Yeah.
So we're going to close out the episode now. Now, we want you to do the one last time. So everyone, you got about another half an hour of this podcast ready. You don't turn this podcast off yet. There's lots more great Bryce comedy coming up. We're gonna, you've been on pretty much regularly for the last at least 6 months as you've been prepping for the move. So it's been great to have you on.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm really gonna miss it, and I love coming here. I love talking comics and. Wish I could have done it more when I wasn't able to do it more, and we'll certainly miss doing it less when I am gone. But I, again, will be back. I'm going to be back in September and November, not to mention any bonus stuff that I do. And what's so funny?
Hopefully the door's locked.
Well, not if it's in my house, Brock. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, I'm really gonna miss it, and I really, really appreciate as a fan of podcasts that I support. Like, so I support a Liverpool podcast and like a Hearthstone podcast, and that might be it. But I understand like what it means to like love content and support it coming out, and so I really appreciate everybody that loves what we do and supports what we do, and so yeah, thank you so much for your support. It really is acknowledged and means a lot, and I will really miss doing this more frequently, and until the day that we get Higgins to do Skype every week, much love, and I'll see you probably sooner than you'd like. Welcome to This Week, recorded this week, but recorded tonight. This is the Comics Conspiracy Podcast. Actually, you just listened to it. I hope that it was a great episode. I'm sure it was. I'm sure that there was lots of wisdom shared by me, and as well as handsome attributes. And then there was also the contributions of my fellow podcastians. This was the Comics Conspiracy Podcast. We would like to thank some very important people this week. First of all, thank you for listening. We love and appreciate everybody that listens, but we especially appreciate the people that enable our either drug habits or ability to read comic books. Very boringly, it is always 6 to 1. It is always the latter and never the former with the crowd that I hang with here at the Comics Conspiracy. But we would just like to especially thank Julian Titus with the Nerds Without Pants podcast.
No pants.
Thank you very much. Not Toby. Also, Ryan Hess with the Blowhards. You can find the Blowhards at blowhards.libsyn.com. They are not full of hot air, as you might think. They are, in fact, blowing hard into the cartridges of their old video games to get the dust off them, which Ryan Scott would make sure you know is not the way to do it, but that it will not stop Ryan Hess and his crew over at blowhards.libsyn. That's Libsyn, not the T, libsyn.com. We also, of course, have Jody Lawson with the Canon Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicsstudios.com. That's comics, plural, studios, plural, because there are more than one comics in the multiple studios of the Triad. And if you think the Triad are bad, you should try visiting The Hand or The Red Hand, comicsstudios.com. That probably does not exist, but Daredevil would be afraid of them all the same. There's also Sam Shea. I'm not even sure that we've ever officially recognized whether it's Chia or Shea, or if Higgins has figured this out without telling me, but I've always heard it pronounced Sam Shea, so thank you very much, Sam. Craig Anderson. Craig is just a hot mess. Craig has terrible ideas about binding. Craig...
He still hasn't DM'd me about it.
Craig is just, he lives in the wrong state for a future Bryce. Bryce will never move there. He's just, there's a whole bunch wrong with Craig. He goes to Comic-Con when Bryce isn't there, so there's a whole bunch wrong with Craig. But we, Craig, your contribution, it's there. Joe Duff. Joe, I have nothing clever. I'm sure that you've had too many Simpsons jokes made about your surname, so I'm going to not make one, even though I have made one, but we really appreciate your contribution. Andrew Nelson Mendez. Andrew, thank you very much. I thought that I had nothing for Joe. I really have nothing for you, Andrew. Andrew, we really appreciate your contribution. Thank you very much. Darfox8. How excited are you that Star Fox 1 is on the Super Nintendo Classic? Just got that. Haven't played it yet, but that's going to be exciting to play. I'm going to do a barrel roll to the next person, which is Larry Davis. Not to be confused with Larry David, who I'm sure he's never gotten that joke either. Larry Davis has the Stand and Deliver podcast, a podcast about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is
it's manga and anime.
I knew that. You didn't need to tell me that. I was very familiar because I like standing and delivering, even if I'm sitting.
What
right
is
now.
Stand and Deliver is actually named after an Adam Ant song too.
Are you sure it's not named after that awesome movie with what's his bucket?
Yeah. Everything in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is named after rock music.
Got it. Well, I will not fault it for that. So we also have Kellen. Jesus Christ, Bryce, you had one job. Kevin Scheller. Kevin, let me tell you guys.
Brand new backer.
Kevin, let me tell you guys a little bit about Kevin. Kevin has the righteouscomic.com URL. And let me tell you about Righteous Comic, because if you're a new backer, we'd like to tell all of our existing handsome and beautiful backers about the newest, the freshest meat, shall we say? So Kevin has. So Kevin, even though Mr. Higgins has his mouse inverted like a noob on his laptop,
inverted.
Yes, I scroll up and it goes down. I'm not sure.
What?
Yes. You are wrong about this. But you know who's not wrong is Kevin. Kevin has a comic book series called Righteous Comics. So, I'm sorry, the story is just Righteous. The series is Righteous. So Righteous is a comic book series. You guys all need to... This is actually pretty cool. Righteous is a comic book series that tells the story of an aspiring risk analyst, Daniel Pierce, in a world where Daniel Pierce analyzes risk. And he has a mission to climb the corporate ladder and live the American dream. But when he lands the most important account of his career, he is visited by a supernatural being of light that is almost as handsome as Bryce Larsen. This supernatural being of light imbues him with the need to help others instead of earning income for just he and his wife and his children who can't lock bathroom doors. If Daniel can't find a way to navigate his newfound righteousness, everything he built will come crashing down. The twist? Unbeknownst to Daniel, every time he helps someone, they are imbued with the same need to help others. So, little does everybody know that actually the special twist here is that Kevin has this righteousness power, and it was given to me, so I needed to help Kevin. Is it sell, whatever, promote his comic. So Kevin Scheller has the righteouscomic.com. It's actually one of the easiest things to promote because it's actually mostly phonetically correct. righteouscomic.com. Go check it out. That's Kevin's thing. Following up, we also have everybody on this tier, by the way, is equally in sexiness. I'm just your leader. We have Joseba Morales.
Oh, sorry. This is his creative team. This is the artist and colorist of his comic. I'm sorry. That was my mistake.
Yeah, it is your mistake. The first of, one of the last of many that you made this excellent episode. Okay, so Joseba, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation, Morales is the primary artist. And by the way, you guys, if you just go to the website to look at the art, it's worth it. It's worth it because the art, you look at it and you're like, that's as good as any DC book I've ever read. You will not think that it belongs in a Marvel book. Zing Marvel. That was the only time, because I had to get one Marvel joke in this whole episode, and I wasn't able to do it all episode, of course, because Marvel is better than DC. So, also we have Gab Contreras. Gab, I assume, is Gabriel or Gabriella. Mr. or Miss Contreras, apologies. You are an excellent colorist. I'm looking at this art. It actually looks legitimately really, really good. So, unless your name is something different than those three, then my bad. But you guys did have a great looking comic here. And other than Higgins' inverted mouse on his laptop, I look forward to feeling imbued with the power to help more people, because it's something that I haven't felt in a long time. Okay, so I also want to read off some appreciative names, or no, I'm appreciative, some names of the other folks that have been so instrumental. See, they say it takes a village. It really just takes Patreon. It takes Patreon and all of the support that our beautiful, wonderful people have. We have the ever handsome Ajax supporting Dennis Janssen. Dennis, if I knew how to say my man in Dutch, I would possibly try. I don't, so I'm not going to go. But I'm gonna go a little more quickly. Okay, Alex McHale, thank you very much. Matthew Schnapp, thank you very much. Jesus Christ, David Baroldi. This is actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is much more difficult than you might think. So, David Baroldi, thank you very much. Don Clinton, Mark Long, Michael Zakavek. I wonder how many of you guys just put in complicated last names because it's your actual last name or just because you're trying to mess with me. But Mr. Zakavek, well played, sir. Well played. Oh, Jesus. Ivan Les Sanich, is that how you pronounce your last name, Ivan? Yeah, so there's Ivan. Ivan, favorite Bryce Larsen troll, or I'm not sure if I'm the favorite troll of his, or if I just said the same thing twice. Okay, also, Brian Morawski, thank you very much, Brian. Thank you, Miles Gakula. Oh my goodness, Bryce Larsen quotes. What? $5? What? Did he go down? He must have been higher every other episode, and this is my final episode for a little while. And that is why he's down to the $5 tier. I don't blame him. I wouldn't support anything that I'm not on, except that I'm not leaving totally, so keep the Patreon rolling. Okay. Paula Schultz, thank you very much, Paula. Mark Smith, thank you very much. Joseph Rodriguez, a.k.a. Joseph Rodriguez, thank you very much. Keith Amaral, his avatar is the Superboy from the Reign of Supermen, with the leather jacket pointing to the shield on his back. Gotta love that. Classic. Part of the Bryce Larsen, what do we call it? How we got into comics? The Secret Origin. Part of the Bryce Larsen Secret Origin. Little known fact, a.k.a. well-known fact. Okay, so we have... Oh, Jesus, Jack Ildefonso. Oh, that was anticlimactic. Okay, at Comics Eccentric, Jack Ildefonso. Oh, Jesus. Ildefonso, obviously. That's pretty easy. Bryce, get it together. Okay, Christopher Noyes. He supports the Quakes, but I'm sure that whatever Premier League team he supports is the wrong one. So, Christopher, go fix that, please. I'm not sure what team it is, but it's probably wrong. David Safar, thank you very much, David. Identity Stunt the Comic. That is a crazy primary and surname. JK Chad. Thank you very much, Identity Stunt the Comic. PJ Ryder. Love PJs. Who doesn't love PJs? My kids love PJs. Tyler Willits. Oh, Tyler. Is there a more handsome running man that's been such a long time friend of the podcast? I don't know if there is, Tyler, but if there is, they have to compete with you. Okay. Rob Bendixson. Thank you very much, Robert. Travis Fleischman. Oh, nice try, Travis, with the long last name. I got that one right away. Mason Barber, thank you very much, Mason, and thank you much, Mason. I'll take either one. Mike Conrad. Ooh, Coonrad? That's got to be a typo. Coonrad? Why is there two O's? Mike Coonrad. All right, I'll go with it. Mike Coonrad, thank you very much. Oh, Honor Band Bonnergy, another trick name. Nice try, Honor Band, but I got it right first time and didn't mess it up the second time. Honor Band, thank you very much. Corey Murphy. I was just on Murphy Street earlier this evening. I assume that was named after you, Corey. Robert Lane. It was actually Murphy Lane, and so what a coincidence that these two are together. Robert Lane, thank you very much. Mike DiGiorgio. I thought that I would trip up on that one, but surprise, I did not. Christopher. Oh, Jesus. These papas are killing me. Christopher Stone, thank you very much. Jesus, how long is this list? Thad Gutschall.
Did you pull a Toby? Or
is it? No. Thad Gutschall. So thank you very much. And I'm sorry, Thad, if your name is pronounced something like...
See, Ryan does this at home.
How would this be pronounced? It's got to be Thad, right? Why would you clear your throat into the mic? Yeah.
Now you know what I deal with every podcast. Now that you can actually hear.
Yeah, but I don't clear my throat. That's like disgusting. I'm just loud and obnoxious. Like that's a different level of obnoxiousness. Sorry. I forgive you. Okay.
Ruining his outro.
Okay. Timothy, thank you for first Bassman 13. Timothy, thank you very much. I don't know what your last name is, but I'm sure if you're supporting it $5 or more, that you're quite a handsome Timothy. So, Christopher Lockhart, a.k.a. Chris Lockhart, thank you very much. You know, you were one of my favorite wizards in Harry Potter, assuming that was, that was your father, Gilderoy. Okay, so Aaron Wright, thank you very much. What happened? I didn't click anything. And we're back. Okay, so, Father Dante. Thank you very much, Father Dante. Captain America, huh? Interesting. I've heard that's a good movie. Garen Dunbar. Garen, thank you very much. I have nothing clever to say for you, Garen. Brian Wilson. Oh, I want to know how the Beach Boys are doing, Brian. I'm sure you've never heard that joke. Bryce, go fuck yourself. Okay, Nick Harrison. Thank you very much. Chris... Oh, Jesus, Chris, you bastard. Chris Pollocky. Oh, that wasn't so tough. Chris Pollocky, thank you very much. Kevin Ellis, your brother Warren, thank you very much. Chris Olivas, Wall Ansari. I'm sure that you've... Oh, I'm sorry, Wally Ansari. I'm sure that you haven't gotten any Aziz Ansari jokes ever, so I'm going to not do it. We also have Nick Zappas. If there's any Nick out there, I want him to be zip-zapping us around. Okay, Mario Miranda. The living legend, Mario Miranda. Mario, you're a living legend. I don't know what else to say about that.
Are you reading people's email addresses on this?
No. Well, I'm just saying totally randomly that... I mean, and by the way, I'm not saying the end. It's not like people are going to email each other and say, should we, all get together and support the Patreon more? Is that what you're concerned with? Because they might. And so, good marketing job, Bryce. I'll take the extra percentage. Okay, Dominic Arisman. Dominic, thank you very much, Dominic. I really like how Dominic is with a K at the end. I'm used to Dominic's with a C. This makes you unique. Excellent work. Chris Kim, thank you very much. Oh, and Chris Bunch, the double Chris's. Chris Kim, Chris Bunch, you guys are a bunch of Chris's that I can find you very supportive. I got nothing. I was trying for something. Gordon McKenzie, I'm sure that we're down to 0 listeners at this point, but Gordon McKenzie, thank you very much. The Real Mackenzies, if you haven't listened to them, excellent band. Go check out The Real Mackenzies. J.R. Barack. I have a son named JT. Well, that's not his name, but JR is probably not your name. So anyway, JR, keep it going. I love it. Greg Lindsay. Oh, Greg, can we trust you? Whenever there's a person with 2 first names as their full name, I'm never actually sure if we can trust them. I think that's an old wives' tale, but I'm pretty sure that we're not sure if we're able to trust you, Greg. But for now, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Thank you very much. Christopher Nguyen. Thank you very much. Also a contributor on the Facebook group. Unless I'm getting that wrong, in which case, sorry, not sorry. But Christopher, thank you very much. Edgar Moreno, Edgar, thank you very much. What is this picture? I'm not going to tell anybody because I think that's in breach of something. But Edgar, thank you very much. And last but not least, the video game master himself, Andrew Cuscieri. Andrew masters video games and then posts them to the Facebook group. Andrew, thank you very much for your support. Ladies and gentlemen, that is... Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that I was done? Because I'm actually not done. You thought that I was done. But for what it's worth, before you...
You can start your timer back up, Kevin.
Before you hang or quit,
The over-under was 18 minutes.
I actually am almost done. That I'm not sure that makes me feel good or bad, Kevin. Okay. Lastly, but not leastly, I would...
Oh, jeez.
Jesus Christ, who was that? It was not me. Okay. This podcast has a flatulence filter, I believe, so nobody heard that. Okay, good. Okay, so
what?
We have everything of any comic you could possibly ever want, as long as it's a DC comic and or has a cover by Art Germ here at the comicconspiracypodcast.com.
No.
Is that even a real URL?
That's the podcast URL. Also, comicsconspiracy.biz.
Hey, I'm getting to that. That's the third bullet. I'm not even done with the first bullet. Why you got to be bullet racist? Look, all of the podcast stuff that you want to find is obviously what I said, is at comic, not plural, comicconspiracypodcast.com. There's only one of us, mother effers. And Geekbox.
We're not going to be ready at 10.
Nope.
Geekbox.net and iTunes.
Godbox?
Well, it should be if I'm on it. Okay, you can also rate and review things, and that is all this bullet point has, which is a very unhelpful bullet point, Mr. Higgins.
You can rate and review us on iTunes.
Okay, so you should definitely do that,
places.
by the way. And the comics... Jesus Christ. The Comic Conspiracy at geekbox.net is where you can send your angry emails to Ryan about how the guy reading this outro should move out of state and not be on any more podcasts for another couple weeks. You can do that at The Comic Conspiracy at geekbox.net. His name is Ryan. That's R-I-A-N Higgins. That's H-I-G-E-N-S. That's Ryan Higgins. R-I-A-N I forget how I spelled it, but that's how you spell Ryan Higgins' name. Okay, so there's also the way to support and get such excellent karma, integrity, handsomeness award points at patreon.com/comic conspiracy. There's only one comic here, and that's the Comic Conspiracy. So patreon.com/comic conspiracy. You can also support Higgins by buying comics. If you're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to buy physical comics. I don't have room. You know how much rent is in the Bay Area? Jesus Christ. You can go to digital.comics. This time it's plural. comicsconspiracy.biz. That's digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. If you want to support the store, you know, you buy these comics. A lot of the times they have incredible sales that you just want to buy tons of stuff. And Higgins gets a little slice. So obviously the
if it's being shipped out to you, I pack that.
Well, you know, take that as a pro or a con as you will, but regardless, Brock will pack it. If it's a digital comic, Brock, really?
Yeah, I'll pack that.
I was talking about digital comics. You're not packing shit that's digital. Okay, lastly, we have the Effervescent Brock's blog at conspiratorbrock.com. If you can't spell it, God help you. conspiratorbrock.com, where all your comic blog dreams come true. Also, if you want to know about Doctor Who, you can follow Charlie, who bit Toby's finger, at The Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension, even though I'm pretty sure that no longer exists. But he's actually not even... What? It's still going?
Yeah.
It's probably not going for much longer.
There's a new Doctor coming out.
No, Doctor Who he's fine. But around Matt Smith, I was like, ugh, this is exhausting. Okay. If you also want to support Higgins' old lady, her art, Leanne's art, can be found at etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. I'm going to have to ask you to Google that shit because spelling Leanne Hill Art, if you don't know how to spell it, is just killing me. Lastly, are our Twitter handles. You can troll me. I've only blocked 2 people ever, or follow the rest of us. We actually appreciate positive criticism and just general, shout-outs and love. We always love that. Higgins is at Ryan Higgins Ryan. Do not follow the spelling instructions I gave you 3 minutes ago. There's Brock Sager. Spoiler as to who that is. There's Larsen Bryce. That's Larsen with an E-N, Bryce with a Y. I know that all of my potential followers have been tripping over themselves and misspelling that, so understandable. We have Toby XI, if you want to hear the second most swearingest member of the podcast. Also the second loudest. When I'm in my weeks of break and not here, Toby will fill in a shade of the void. He'll do his best, and he'll do better than anyone else here, I'll tell you that. So, there's also Insanity and Chaos. If you want to see only positive things tweeted about, and only Doctor Who talked about, and only arguments about who's the number one cable fan that are only decided by his wife, then you can follow Insanity and Chaos, which is Charlie. Okay, Comics Con Store is, if you want to hear about politics, you can follow Higgins at Comics Con Store because he won't shut the fuck up about doing politicking. There's also the Geek Box, the Comedy Button, Manga Machinations, and Infinite Binge. Other than Geek Box, I've never listened to a single one of those. I'm sure that they're hilarious and great and amazing. So go check them out because they're part of our network, but I can give less of a fuck. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is my last outro for a long time. a very long time, possibly. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the support in everything that you've helped the podcast with. And I just want to say that I love you all, and I'll see you later. And Higgins is trying to kill it.
No,
so
I'm just pulling up. So when you're ready, hit that yellow button.
I'm going to hit the yellow button now. Ladies and gentlemen, good night and good luck.